Greetings, what's going on with y'all? So yeah, now they on here talking about I'm a drug head and I'm on drugs, all of this stuff, all of these crazy ass comments. I know you just want to have your name, listed in the comments because everybody just wants to be seen. And not only that, but some of you are so poisoned by jealousy and anger and things of that nature. Your chakras are all fucked up, so you just want to just take out all your pain and stuff. You having problems with your wife, she won't give you none, or some of you having problems with your man, he won't be faithful to you, so you gotta just take this stuff out on me or whatever. And then, some of you tried to, put out videos and different things, wouldn't anybody really listen to you, or you didn't get the amount of clicks and responses that you was looking for. So now you want to go take it all out on me, blame Ram Hotel, it's all his fault, Ram Hotel L, it's his fault, because all the things that I'm experiencing right now, if he hadn't started making YouTube videos, I would never experience them. I'm just up here clowning, man. But I mean, because I be laughing at your comments, like, man, if you had some proof that I was on drugs, like, go, like, I'm just saying this because there's young people out here listening, and you don't care about young people. You don't give a fuck about young people. So, and I'm going to say this to the people that really are concerned and maybe think there's a possibility that maybe I'm on drugs or something. I want you to tell these people in the comments or whatever that to go and produce some proof and to post that proof. Go make a YouTube video showing around hotel copping his drugs from the stash guy, from the drug man, from the dope man or whatever. Like, why don't you go show a video of me copping my pills or whatever I'm on, supposed to be on, or even show me at a pharmacy or something and post it online, show some kind of proof. You know I'm on drugs. Obviously, you know me in person if you know that I'm on drugs, because I've never said I was on drugs on camera. So if you got all this stuff, like it's factual information or whatever, and if I'm all on drugs or whatever, then go and show some proof or whatever. Go to the pill man or something and get proof from him and pay him off, and say, look, I want you to film a video around hotel copping his drugs, or go to even the weed man even, and get some proof from the weed man of me copping my drugs. You ain't gonna get no proof. You don't know no motherfucking drugs. What's wrong with you? All I need is these. I told you that. That's all I need. All I really need. Like ASAP Rocky said, pussy, money, and weed is all he need. All I need is money, pussy, and crystals. That's all I really need. You know what I'm saying? I don't need no drugs. But anyway, what I'm going to do is that since you guys are talking about drugs, let's turn this into something positive. That's what I decided to do. And let's address a agenda coerced by a group of extraterrestrial beings in relationship to drugs. Let's go into some deeper metaphysics of drugs. And what I want to talk about is that I want to talk about these dimensional witches and wizards that are infiltrating our reality. And this is going on in 4D, 5D even, 3D, 2D, 1D. This is going all the way down or whatever. And these witches and wizards are doing this from the 8th dimension. And that's what we're going to kind of focus this video on. Today is going to be focused on the 8th dimension. And in order to understand the 8th dimension, you must first understand or overstand and understand. You need to do all of those standings to understand dimension 8. You got to over, enter, and understand my definition on dimensions and how I look at dimensions and how I view dimensions. Now I know there's a lot of teachers out there, and they talk about there's dimensions like 10th dimension, 11th dimension, 22 dimension, 22nd dimension, and all of that stuff. And I know it's all over the internet. So, and I've looked into it. However, when I talk about dimensions, you have to first understand a few things before I even get into the meat of this video, which is going to deal with the dimensional witches and wizards and what they're doing in this reality. But before I get into any of that, you must first understand how I view dimensions and understand a few facts. And the first thing you want to understand is that when I view dimensions, when I talk about dimensions, I'm speaking of them in relationship to numbers. In order to understand dimensions, you have to understand numbers. And numbers is something that I'm going to get into more in the mentorship program. I'm going to get way deeper into it in relationship to sovereignty and all of that. Because it still links into activating your astral pyramid and all of that. So don't think, when I talk about dimensions that I'm getting off track and I'm going to something else. Like I'm writing a book for you guys. All of these new videos that I'm coming out with, this is painting a picture. I'm writing a book. So this is not the end. This is a lot of information coming to me, and I'm going to put it all out systematically. Starting from when I put out my first video after my absence, the summer solstice ritual video onward. This is all a book that I'm putting out. And this is just a chapter out of the book. So in order to understand these dimensions, you got to understand numbers. And I'm not speaking of understanding numbers or understanding numbers from a numerology perspective or from a numerological perspective or even from a numeric perspective. I'm speaking about understanding numbers from its essence. That's right, from their essence. And to understand numbers, you have to understand symbology. To understand letters, you have to understand symbology. And to understand the number 8 or the 8th dimension, you would have to understand what's called infinity or infinite or infinite, as some people may call it. You would have to understand the symbol for infinity, which to some people it's an hourglass, and to others it's a symbol that looks similar to the number 8. Now, why do I say this in relationship to the 8th dimension? Why do you have to understand the infinite symbol to understand the 8th dimension? Well, it's a big reason why you have to understand it. And that reason is because that's where the number 8 comes from. According to the ancient Egyptians, when you understand Kemetic numerology, or Kemetic symbology is what it is, the number 8 was depicted as an infinite symbol. Or some people depicted it as a snake moving in the infinite symbol, or two snakes moving amongst themselves in the infinite symbol, in the form of the infinite symbol. This is where the number 8 comes from. The number 8 is associated with the Kundalini of the planet. The earth vibrates to the octave of 8. Very important. The earth vibrates to the octave of 8 point something something. I forgot the exact megahertz. But it vibrates to the octave of 8. So 8 is a very important number in relationship to the earth. Now, all of the other numbers are symbolized by different Kemetic or ancient Egyptian symbols. And what you have to realize about these symbols is that every culture has a different way of depicting numbers and characters as well, or letters. So what you call letters, they're actually characters, different characters. And the ancient Egyptians' system is what we use here in the West, or like I know China has their way of counting, and they have their symbols for different characters and numbers, and different places around the world have different symbols for letters and numbers. Numbers are pretty universal for the most part, don't get me wrong, but there are different cultures that use different symbols for different numbers. Of course, we know this. But why, you have to ask yourself, why in English do we use Kemetic or Kamite symbols, or Egyptian symbols, for those of you who want to say Egyptian? Kemetic, when I say Kemetic, that's really just like saying Egyptian, for those people that may be listening that didn't know that. Actually, the term Kemetic is a lot older than the term Egyptian. But for the sake of this video, I'm using the term Kemetic for a reason. So why do we use Kemetic symbols in English, in an English system, in a place that English is predominantly spoken? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why are we using these things? And I'm going to give you an answer. The reason why we're using these things is because these symbols came from an ancient mystery system, an ancient mystery school. And this ancient mystery school got its information from the Kamites or the ancient Egyptians. And this mystery school and system came to a group of Europeans at the time, or a group of Romans actually, and they were counting and using what's called Roman numerals. So you have to ask yourself, why don't we use Roman numerals? Because we know that a lot of our culture here in the West, especially even in English, was inspired by the Romans, the Holy Roman Empire. For those people that study history, you guys know that the Holy Roman Empire has a lot to do with European culture and European history. So why don't we use Roman numerals? Or why do we use these other symbols that are going into Kemet? Have you ever asked yourself that? And you may say, well, Ramhotep, we use them because we don't want to use, like long drawn out symbols to use for different numbers. So therefore we just use, like for instance, the number 8 in Roman numerals will be a V and 3 slashes. And that's just too long and drawn out. So we, instead of putting a V and 3 slashes, we just write the number 8. That's shorter. That's not why though. That's not why though, because if that was the case, we would have shortened longer numbers like 8,000. I mean, it takes a long time to write out 8,000. I mean, that's not why. Because I know somebody out there is thinking that. That's not why we use Kemetic symbols instead of Roman symbols. But everything has a reason to it. And the reason why is because they got this information, or these particular Moors that came into the Roman Empire taught the Romans how to count, how to use certain higher numbers and symbols. And only those that went to the mystery schools learned this, of course. The priests and high-level initiates of these mystery schools, they will learn certain symbols and ways of counting, and to use different characters to write letters and things of that nature. They learned these things because they knew that different symbols channel in different entities, different energies. Say, for instance, if I say V versus saying, if I say V / / versus saying the number 8, this is a totally different energy. Or if I say, let me give you a better example. If I say the number 8 versus saying ocho, this is giving you another vibration, even though they may be talking about the same thing, but this is going into a different vibration. It's even different characters that are used to say 8 versus ocho. So they were initiating them into the doctrine of symbology in relationship to tonation. And this is another thing you have to understand this video. Let's talk about tonation. You see, tones, there's a difference between tones and dimensions. There are beings that exist on higher octaves of tones, just like there are beings that exist on different higher and lower octaves of dimensions. So when you say that there's dimensions higher than 10, 11, 12, and there's dimensions higher than the number 9, essentially, you're just speaking of, say for instance, if you talk about the 11th dimension, you're really just speaking of the first dimension. You're just speaking of it in a higher tone, or what's called a higher octave. If you talk about the 13th dimension, you're just talking about the 4th dimension in a higher tone, in a higher octave. That's all you're doing. And that's what people have to understand. So you have to understand to really get into this. There are beings that exist on different tones and octaves. Like, for instance, there are beings that exist in the 8th dimension, but they may exist on the seventh tone of the 8th dimension. And you don't have to understand all of this right now to understand beings, but I'm just trying to help people to understand, like when I talk about dimensions 0 through 9 and things of that nature, and that's what I use to reference dimensions, you have to know that's where I'm coming from. I'm speaking on the dimensional aspect, which is going into sacred geometry, which is something I want to take you into now. To understand dimensions, you're understanding the way something is formed when I speak of dimensions. This is how something is formed. And you have to understand sacred geometry to understand how things are formed, or to get into my logic on how things are formed. So in the 8th dimension, you have these dimensional witches and wizards. And we're going to go into form in a minute. I'm going to jump back and talk about form, but I have to talk about these dimensional witches and wizards. And to understand the 8th dimension, you have to understand these dimensional witches and wizards, right? Very important. But you have to understand how they exist and what's going on in the 8th dimension. And they exist in what's called an infinite reality. An infinite reality or infinite reality. The 8th dimension is the dimension of infinity. This is why the Egyptians use the symbol for 8 as the symbol of infinity. And there are beings that are infinite, extraterrestrial beings, or dimensional beings is what I call infinite beings. They're really dimensional beings, but for the sake of this conversation, we can say extraterrestrial beings. There are extraterrestrial beings that exist in a state of infinite, and then there are extraterrestrial beings and even human beings that exist in a finite reality. Very important. Finite reality. See, the 8th dimension is connected to the 4th dimension. And this is going to sacred geometry. And the 4th dimension is predicated upon the finite reality. So just because we talk about, or you hear me say, well, I'm in the 4th dimension now and I've shifted and all of that, I'm still very much in relationship to heaven and hell. I'm still very much in hell, but not a sense of hell like religious sense. So don't get all spooky on me, please. This is not religion here. This is from a more of a metaphysical perspective. And I'll have to do videos on heaven and hell to help you to understand what I mean later on. But I'm not speaking on hell from a religious perspective. But I'm very much in hell when I'm saying that I'm in a 4th dimension. That's what you guys have to realize. And you don't move into heavenly states until you get into what's called the infinite realm. And the reason why I say this is because to us human beings, as long as something can die, this is considered hell. This is why we cry at funerals. We hear about our loved ones dying and people that are close to us dying. We cry. Why is that? It hurts, you know. It don't matter if it's an animal even. We humans hate death, but we don't care about killing insects and shit. Anything that's bothering us, we'll kill that in a heartbeat. See, humans are really kind of schizophrenic actually, because, you know, we'll kill animals and stuff like that and don't shed a tear because we got to eat, but then, you know, you hear about somebody killing your mama or killing your daddy or something like that, and you boo-hooing. Or even some people, you hear about people killing dogs and animals and pets. You boo-hooing and mad and ready to go hang him for that. Crucify him because he killed that dog, but then you'll go kill an insect, you know, a bumblebee or something come to your house. You kill that and don't feel no pain. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, we're all like that. We're all like that, so I'm not knocking anybody. But I'm just saying, why do we, the whole death experience, why do we cry at funerals and stuff like that? Because anything that can die is finite. And to us, this is hell. That's why you say when you go to heaven, they say he's in a better place, he's in heaven. She's in a better place, she's in heaven. They consider that heaven because you can never die. You see, that's being immortal. You can never die. Anything that never dies is considered heaven. Anything that's an immortal, that's a heavenly state because you can beat death. Remember I told you certain extraterrestrials have the cure for death. Some extraterrestrials have the cure for death in the physical realm too. But this is going into more understanding the 5th dimension, of which I won't go into. This is kind of like purgatory. To understand the cure for death and different beings that can exist in bodies and never die and just live forever, this is going into understanding the 5th dimension. And I'm not speaking of that right now. I'm speaking of the difference between finite and infinite. So to understand the 8th dimension, you have to understand the 4th dimension. Now let's go into sacred geometry. There's a reason why I say the 4th dimension. See, the 8th dimension is depicted in some symbols as a circle, or 2 circles actually. Some people, when they draw the number 8, they don't use the infinite sign, the squiggly line sign. It looks like an infinite sign. Some people, if you look on a lot of computer keyboards, you'll notice that they use a sign of like more of, I'm looking at my keyboard, that's why I look down. But they use a sign of more of, that looks like 2 circles kind of stacked up on top of each other, 2 ciphers stacked up on top of each other. This is because this is helping you to understand that the number 8 is the dimension of the cipher. Very important. The dimension of the cipher. I've talked about this on other videos. Now let's go into some symbols I'm going to give you. Now to understand, I'm just trying to paint a picture here. I'm still laying a foundation, and we're going to go into the meat of this video, and I'm going to shut down. It won't be too much longer. So now to go into understanding the 4th dimension, you have to understand what's called the square. And this all leads to your astral pyramid. I'm going to show you how in the end of this video, into activating your astral pyramid. And for those of you that want more, you're going to have to go into the mentorship program, of which I'm thinking about turning the mentorship program into a conference once it's all said and done, so you guys can meet each other. Because remember I said that I have to create my original casting. So you guys are going to meet each other in the mentorship program eventually, but we're not there at that state yet. So I'm working on getting the 800 line and getting a toll-free line, and we're going to try that out and see how that works versus these websites, and see what these agents do in relationship to that. I know I'm putting it out there, so they're going to have their radars up, like, well, you about to get an 800 line, toll-free line, let's try to stop them from doing that, or whatever. But, I mean, we're going to try it out and see how that works. We should have that up by the end of this week, so you guys can kind of speed up the process. Because a lot of people are, like, emailing and stuff like that, and it's hard for me to get in contact with you guys, so we're going to try this toll-free line thing out in a minute. But, and I know this is not off point, I had to kind of throw that in there, but so back to the dimensions or whatever. So to understand the fourth dimension, you have to understand the square. The square. And the square and the circle are related to each other, or equal to each other in relationship to degrees. As many of you know, of course, anybody that's took any type of geometry in school, a fourth grader would know this, that a circle is what's called 360 degrees. A square, actually they don't tell you this, but I mean it really is if you just add it up. A square is considered 360 degrees because it's 4 90-degree angles. Very important, 4 90-degree angles going into the square. Very important. So when you link the square and the circle together, this creates a 720-degree object, and this is what a pyramid is. Very important. I'm going to tell you how these dimensional witches and wizards are coming in and out of this dimension fucking with you now. They can only do it through the fourth dimension. And this is why I believe that these people, this is why I'm teaching on this, because I believe these people that are leaving these comments about me being on drugs are speaking on a higher level. Just like I'm speaking encrypted information, I think they're trying to communicate with me about something. I think that these are actually extraterrestrial groups that are leaving these comments. I think it's deeper than just some knucklehead nobody. And they're trying to use the appearance and all that to destroy me, but they're scared because they know I'm exposing this information. And they're like, oh shit, we gotta stop this shit. He's going deeper into, like, he's about to expose us really, really soon. You know how it is when you know your parents or whatever, you may have did something wrong or whatever, and your parents come home and they may start talking about something that's similar to what you know you hide in your secret that you hide in, like you may be on drugs. Let's just use that for an example. You may be smoking weed, you don't want your parents to know, right? So they may come home and just start talking about, like, yeah, it was a story on the news about these people that got caught smoking weed or whatever. And you like start wondering, like, Dad, does she know that's what I'm doing? Or does he know that's what I'm doing? Does my dad know that's what I'm doing? So you kind of sugarcoat it, you know what I'm saying? So you try to throw the attention off into something else, like, oh yeah, how's that Bengals game? You see that Bengals game, Dad? Or did you see that Bears game? You know, did you see that Panthers game? Or whatever the case may be, you try to throw it off. Or did you see that Mets game? You know what I'm saying? So you try to throw it off from what it's really about. Because you know, really, in reality, they're getting close to your secret. You don't want them to even talk about that. But that's what I think these people are doing in the comments. And that's how these dimensional witches and wizards work. This is what I mean, they're moving in and out of our reality, but it's even deeper than that, though, because I'm going to talk about the data drugs that they're using. So dimensions 4 and 8 are linked together, and when you activate your astral pyramid, you move in order to activate the astral pyramid. You are essentially, once it's activated and totally functioning properly, you will be able to move from the 4th through the 8th dimensions freely. That's right, freely. You'll be able to travel from the 4th dimension to the 5th dimension to the 6th dimension, 7th and 8th. And this is why I said that I'm getting communications from even the 8th and even the 9th dimensions. That's what I meant when I talked about that. And I'm not going to really speak on that too much here, but you're able to get information, and some of it is not good. Some of it is good information and useful, and some of it can be negative. Or there's no good and bad, so let me kind of rephrase that. Some of it may be anti-information versus regular just information. Why do I use the term anti? Now let's go into anti on a scientific level. And this is all built up to data drugs and dimensional witches and how they work. So you have to understand what's called anti. See, every pyramid exists in matter or material form, and then antimatter or anti-material. You see, you have what's called atoms, and the atoms are the building blocks of life. Atoms create elements, and elements, go into different compound realities, and this is how we get things. This is how we get these from elements. This is how we get these crystals, or this is how we get, money. This is actually a coin. This is a dollar bill, but it's a coin, and this is how we get these things. See, we get these things based on elements. Of course, we already know this, right? Anybody that research science knows it, but you have what's called an anti-reality. And this is going into more so understanding quantum physics. So everything that's physical has an anti-reality. Like you have the proton, you have the anti-proton. You see, you have the atom, but then you have what's called quarks. And these quarks are what make up atoms. So to understand dimensions 6, 7, 8, or the heavenly dimensions, or understanding infinite beings, not going to expose their reality, you have to understand quarks. And this is how they travel. They travel through the realm of quarks. And quarks are composed of things, of which I will not reveal here. I only reveal this in the mentorship program. So quarks are composed of things. And of course, we know the material world is created of atoms, but when you go into the sacred pyramid, even in real life pyramids, even, you're able to move in through different dimensions. This is why you hear about stories about people that have went through pyramids and they got stuck, or they got lost even. You just heard about this story about these two guys that were hiking in the mountains, I think up in Utah somewhere, and they got lost. This is because mountains are versions of pyramids too, So you guys didn't know that, I guess. See, there's more to the pyramids. Aren't just mountains were built by extraterrestrial beings. Yeah. Mounds, like the Cuyahoga mounds that exist in St. Louis and all that. That was built by extraterrestrial beings. Very important in understanding this video. So, back to my point. You have beings that are able to travel through all of these different dimensions. And you will be able to one day too, but when you first activate your astral pyramid, remember you're doing this more so in theory first, because eventually once you go through this, you're going to learn how to build a pyramid. Like I'm almost to the point where I'm learning how to build a pyramid. And then I'm going to, of course I probably won't be 40 years old so I get to that point. I'm nowhere near 40 right now. But I probably will be 40 years old when I get to this point. But eventually I'm moving into learning how to build a pyramid, which is very key. But in that, you first have to activate the astral version of your pyramid, or the higher part of yourself, and create your astral body and all of that before you can materialize. And it comes down into the realm of matter, which is the fourth dimension. So there are beings that have been mastered this. And they're moving throughout the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, going up into the 8th dimension. They can't get into the 9th dimension. This is how you can stop them. But let me talk about what they're doing first before I go into solutions on how to stop them. Very important. So what are they doing? What they're doing is that they're experimenting with these data drugs. And I'm going to talk about the data drugs. And these data drugs give them the ability, any drug in general, I don't care what it is, enhances your reality. This is why people use drugs. Drugs are very much a part of the occult. No, I'm not using drugs. I don't even smoke weed or anything like that. But at the end of the day, drugs are very much, right now I'm not smoking weed. Like I always say, if I'm in a place where it's legal or something like that, I will partake in marijuana and all of that, but I'll never do any type of man-made drugs. I just don't get into that, like I don't get into like pills and things of that nature, and there's reasons for that. Like I don't mess with that kind of stuff. I don't mess with mollies and shit like that. Like, I just don't. That's not me, because those drugs are mixed with crack and all kind of stuff, and I'm not. I used to. Let me not even get into that. I know too much about crack and what's in it, and heroin and stuff like that. Even though there's a pure version of heroin, but you can't find it. And if you were to find it, you probably die using it because it's too damn powerful for most person. But I'm not. You got to watch Frank Lucas and them. They knew about that pure heroin. But I don't get into all of that. I don't. That's not me. But anyway, going back to these interdimensional witches and wizards. So they're moving throughout this reality by partaking in these data drugs. And these data drugs aren't what you think they are. Now let me explain data drugs. Data drugs, they get them from the ninth dimensions. And they can't go into the ninth dimension. These infinite beings that exist in the eighth dimension, they can't make it into the ninth dimension. I'm not going to tell you too much about what the ninth dimension is composed of, but I will say this. The ninth dimension is where the oracles exist. That's right, the oracles exist there. You remember Neo always had to go see the oracle? Remember that? You know, I need to go see the oracle. Why did all of them want to go see the oracle? There was a reason for that. See, the oracle was the pusher. She was the one that was dealing the ninth dimensional or the eighth dimensional dope. But it wasn't considered dope to her. But they turned it into, because they were lower beings than her, they didn't exist in the ninth dimension. So she would give them information, is what I mean. And this information is called data drugs. And this information gave them the ability to be able to astral travel. See, there's a higher version of astral travel. You have astral traveling, like people that know how to meditate and leave their body in astral travel. That's one level to it. That's a form of astral traveling. But there's another form of astral traveling where you can take your whole body with you into another dimension. Whether it's a infinite body, because they have infinite bodies, which is like your astral body. That's infinite, because it's made of the circle. See, infinite is still, it's still limitations on it, but the only limitation is predicated upon the person that created the circle. You still have to draw a circle. See, real true existence exists in really, I know I'm jumping around here, but this is all coming together. But real true existence exists in what's called a straight line, kind of like a line or a wave. Let's just say it's a wave. And when they form a circle or infinite being, they have to form this infinite being into a circle. It's still a form. A circle is still a form. See, real true existence exists in the realm of chaos. And out of chaos comes what? Order. So all orders exist in the eighth dimension. And this is where dimensional witches and wizards exist in orders. Very important for you to understand that. They are a part of the realm of formality and formation and order. And those people that study Gnosticism definitely know what I'm speaking of here. This is definitely cryptic information on a lot of levels. And some Freemasons may not understand it. But those people that, you know, these witches, they exist in the eighth dimension in the realm of order, but they go to these oracles. See, oracles and all that, they exist in channelers and people like that. They exist in the ninth dimension, or beings like that. They exist in the ninth dimension, so they're kind of like pushers. They got an unlimited amount of data because they could just channel data from all over the universe, from different tones, from different regions, from different higher regions, lower regions, all kind of stuff. It's like a lot of it. So that's chaos to most people. But to the channeler, they understand it. And this is why when you go to a lot of psychics, you ever notice that when you go to a psychic, I don't know how many of you guys can bear witness to this, but I used to go to this psychic. Her name was Maria. And Maria, if you seen her, you would judge her. You would judge her because she smoked cigarettes, and you go to her house and all this stuff is like scattered around the house, and you know, and it's not necessarily dirty, but it's a lot of just stuff. Like her house, she was like almost like a pack rat. And you're like, damn, like how she got all this spiritual knowledge and wisdom? And I'm telling you, Maria could look at you and tell you almost anything about yourself, though, at the same time. Keep that in mind. Maria was no joke with the info, though. And shout out to Maria. I don't know if she watches these videos or not, but she was no joke on the info, though. But yeah, if you looked at her from your little infinite religious crazy, especially you guys leaving these comments, you guys are nuts. You probably didn't even get far enough into this video. That's why I'm making it long, so you don't even get the good information in it. I want you to turn it off. I don't care. So you can come in your comments. You're going to talk about stuff that I already addressed later on in the video, because you don't watch the videos. You see I made another video. You wait till you see a few people come on there. and then hit like and all of that, and then you come and sabotage it. So this is for you. This is for you. So I'm gonna make it long, so you, by the time you want it, you'll turn it off. You won't even get the good meat out of it. So you can't hack into my intel. But anyway, so yeah, you would judge her. You guys leaving these comments, these nuts out here, they would judge her. But she had that info though, and I didn't really understand Maria until I really understood the ninth dimension. And in the ninth dimension, this is where the warlocks and the high level entities exist in this dimension or whatever, and they bring all kind of information from all over the universe and all over the multiverse down into reality, and this turns into, for the eighth dimensional beings, this turns into what's called data drugs. Now data drugs is what they use to travel. Very important. They astral travel with these data drugs. And what happens is that they take these data drugs. They aren't just like drugs like in our reality. We pop some pills and you high and you like thinking about all kind of stuff and your mind's all over the place. Now, there's more to it than that. They can take these data drugs and now they can come up with ways of learning how to shift whatever their form is composed of, be it, because there's data drugs that exist all the way going down into, from all in the infinite realities. There's data drugs that exist all the way into the sixth dimension. It doesn't really go too much into the fifth, fourth, and all of that, but this is how they fuck with our reality. I'm going to tell you that in a minute. But there's data drugs that exist in the realities, or in dimensions, 6, 7, and 8. There's data drugs. So what they have to do is they have to learn how to mess with their, basically shapeshift. They have to learn how to shapeshift their form and slow down their vibration enough to where they become a finite being. Very important, to where they become a finite being. They have to slow down their reality. And they do, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about how they do this scientifically. I'm not going to give you everything. So what they do is that they learn about the quantum reality. The reality based on quarks. And different parts of quarks, of which I won't reveal here. There's different parts of quarks. And they learn how to work with these different realities to slow down their vibration enough to the point where they can get to the point of an atom. See, there's the atom, and then the atom is composed of things. And they say that the nucleus of the atom is composed of what's called mitochondria, DNA, the biological version of the atom, of course. Because, there's different, atoms can form different things. Like, atoms make elements. I have to say all of this so you can understand this, and I know this may be a lot for a lot of people. But atoms make elements. And there's 99 dimensional elements, but some people say it's more than that. They say, no, it's more than that. Ron, it was 117, 118. Those are man-made elements that exist on a periodic table. There's really 99. This was discovered in 1974 by this particular scientist or whatever. But they begin to make man-made elements and stuff like that to do other stuff with or whatever. But atoms make elements. And what they do is that they have to become atoms in order to become finite beings. And so they have to master the realm of what's called illusion. They're illusionists. They're magicians. That's why I call them witches and wizards. And they know how to slow down their vibration enough to where they can now go and infiltrate into the atomic reality, or the reality of atoms. And they do this by messing around with the quantum reality through data drugs. And they take these data drugs to learn how to penetrate the mitochondria aspect of DNA. Why do I say that? The mitochondria aspect of DNA. Very important here. And in the mitochondria aspect of DNA, this is the part of DNA that cannot be broken. This is the feminine version, or this is the part of DNA that, say for instance, your mother passes you on your mitochondria DNA, no matter if you're a male or female. There's nuclear DNA that the father passes you on, but this can be broken. This chain can be broken, and it always is, and this is why they have a hard time researching. When you research yourself back, you have to go through your mother for right now, because scientists are having a hard time being able to trace you back to your father's side, because the Y chromosome deals with nuclear DNA, which is a whole other type of DNA. So they want to come in through the mother's line, these beings or whatever. So they infiltrate the mitochondria aspect of DNA, and it's a reason why they choose the mitochondria aspect of DNA. Because did you know that the mitochondria aspect of your DNA is the DNA that metabolizes your food. This is when you go into diet now. Remember I said I was going to explain to you why there was different degrees of information when it comes to food and diet. Remember I said, I was a vegan and all of this, and I said that just because you're now a vegan or a breatharian, you can still be locked into the agenda of Luciferians and shapeshifters and all of that. Now I'm going to explain to you how. Because if you learn how mitochondrial DNA works, you can eat just about anything and metabolize it, especially if you're one of these damn dimensional witches or wizards, or you're being hosted by or harvested by one. Because there's people that these dimensional entities are using your body to do things with. And it could be positive stuff too now. They're not all negative. I want you to know that too. They're not all negative beings. But they come through the mitochondrial aspect of your DNA, and they're basically, your food is metabolized. This is how your muscle structure is made. It's through your metabolism. This is how the inner mechanics of your being able to move, your motions and things of that nature. This is composed of what's called mitochondrial DNA. Or this is broken down. When it's broken down, this is broken down by your mitochondrial DNA or your mother's line. And this is why people how long you're going to live, if you're going to live a natural life and die of natural causes. This is based upon your mother's bloodline. And this is why, like, say for instance, like my mother and even my father, actually, my mother and my father, them people, man, they look good for their age. They look damn good for their age. And this is because obviously the mitochondrial line, or their mitochondrial DNA is really good, essentially. It's composed of really good fluids or liquids, because mitochondrial DNA is composed of like liquids. It's composed of really good liquids, and this is why they can eat just about any kind of diet. I'm saying, though, they don't got to be breatharians and all of that. Like, I'm talking about these people. There's people in my family that live to be over 100 years old that ain't know nothing about none. They eating pork and all kind of stuff, and like chewing tobacco and doing all kind of stuff, and live for a long time. And this is because of their mitochondrial DNA. So let's go back to data drugs. So these data drugs that these beings were taking, they're learning how to slow down their vibration enough to be able to master the vibration of something finite, which is going into the square aspect of reality, or the fourth dimensional aspect of reality, so that they can take on hosts. And then they infiltrate our reality and take on hosts in this reality. So essentially what they can do is that they can take on just about anybody's body. They're magicians. And they can move through the fourth dimension, even the fifth dimension even, and come into this dimension, do their work, and then move out without even dying. And if they want to take the body with them, they can teach the host how to move out with them. They'll start giving them information, essentially is what they'll do. They'll start giving them the information from the eighth dimension, so that they can learn how to move out of this realm without dying. Like you read about Elijah in the Bible and different scriptures, you read about how he went to heaven whole body. They talk about him, how he never died. The Nation of Islam, they believe that Master Fard Muhammad never died. This is their God. And they believe he never died. They believe he's still alive. You read in the Bible, you even read about certain entities and beings living to be 1,000-something years old, like Methuselah, and different beings like him, and even Adam and them living to be 400 or 500 years old. You're like, how were they able to do this? They were probably entertaining these dimensional witches and wizards and learning so much information that they knew how to mess with their body a certain kind of way by taking and partaking. This is alchemy, actually. This is alchemy, believe it or not. By taking in certain vitamins, nutrients, minerals, working with certain crystals, taking certain drugs even. The Egyptians knew how to do this even too, so that they can move out of this reality. This is why the Egyptians were so obsessed with death. So much so that, like I always say on all my videos, they spent all of their time on this physical world preparing for their death. Who in their right mind would do that? They say, I'm going to live, I'm going to have fun, I ain't going to be spending all my time. This was fun to them. Because what they were really doing is they were really, in doing that, they was moving in and out of heaven and hell, going from heaven and hell, or they call it the duat. That's what they actually call it. They was moving from out of that reality, or the duat reality, at will. See, there's a part in the Aquarian Gospels of Levi and also in the Circle 7, and it talks about how Jesus said he could cross the borderland at will. He said that he could take human flesh and make it into flesh divine. How is he doing that? What is the borderland? See, the borderland is the fifth dimension. This is the land that separates the infinite beings from the finite beings. And Jesus knew how to move in and out of those realities at will, to where they didn't have to reincarnate back. They didn't have to engage in reincarnation. Why? Because they knew knowledge of, they could just move in and out of these realities and come, materialize whenever they wanted to, then disappear. This is going into helping you to understand Merkaba mysticism. This is a science that's above a lot of people's comprehension at this particular time, right now in this particular dispensation. But this is important because when you begin to work with certain beings, hold on, let me slow down. You may ask, why do you call them drugs, though, around Hotel? This sounds like a really high science. Like, this sounds like something, that we should be partaking in. It sounds like something that we might want to do. It's because, for one thing, you have a negative connotation when it comes to drugs. But secondly, drugs, remember I said, I defined it for you. Drugs are anything that enhances your reality. And reality, remember I've said this on other videos, existence creates reality. So you can learn how to make virtual realities from learning about the realm of existence, which is the realm of quarks, or the realm of quantum physics. But it's still considered a drug because there are negative entities that can come to you and give you information, just like there are positive entities. You have to learn the difference in order for you to be a really good magician. This is high Aquarian information that I know a lot of people aren't going to be ready for. So you have to, but at the same time, I'm not going to project that, because a lot of people are ready for it, because it wouldn't be coming out my mouth if people weren't. So you have to learn how to distinguish the difference, so that your reality won't get fucked with. It was a sister that left a comment on my last video, and I don't think she meant any harm by it, but a lot of people were. Her name was Ebony. And she was like, it's interesting. She was just making an analysis, I believe. I mean, I don't think she meant any harm by it. She said, it's just funny how his appearance changes on different videos. This is because I'm working with different beings on different videos. Depending on which being I'm working with, like on this particular video, for instance, I'm working with Nephthys. Nephthys is the goddess of these particular data drugs that I talked about, or these particular oracle, these drugs that are dealt by these oracles. Nephthys is the star oracle that would deal with these particular drugs to these entities or whatever. And I call them drugs because she just gives you the information. It's just like me. I can give you information. What you do with it, that's up to you. You can go destroy some shit with the information I give you. But trust me, some Luciferians did it with my last set of videos, the other 400 videos I did. Look at what they did with this world. Look at what the Andromedans did with this world off the information that I gave you guys. And that was level 1 information in my mind, because I mean, I can take you up higher than this. This is just level 2 right here. I can even go to 3 right now, but I'm not going to do that. Probably not even this year, even. Probably not even next year. Probably wait till like 2020 or something to take you to that information. But look at what they did off of that. So that's what I mean by you got to be careful, beloved. You have to be careful in what entities you begin to channel as you activate your astral pyramid and you create your astral body. Because you're going to become a channeler. It naturally happens. Every scientist. See, you guys think I'm nuts, but Einstein and Nikola Tesla and all them, they were in tune with extraterrestrial beings. They said it. They said that a lot of stuff that they started learning, at some point, it was like they weren't reading the stuff in books anymore. It was like this information, knowledge was just coming to them from a higher entities, from higher beings. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down after this. And what I'm going to say is just, again, to stress the fact, be careful when you deal with these data drugs of 2 things. One thing is, be careful of the beings that you're channeling. Because when I say be careful, just be mindful of when you begin to want to move out on things that they told you to do, be mindful of where you're at. Because some people, they say, when they go kill their whole family, or they say the devil made them do it, or they hurt these beings and made them do it. Those are dimensional witches and wizards that are messing with your reality. And they come through your emotions, energy, emotion, and they cause you to do things. So be careful of what they tell you to do. Think about it. 20 times. Make sure you got crystals around. Keep positive energy around, because these are living entities. And keep positive energy around so that when they're telling you to do stuff, you know, take it up with your crystal. Meditate on it at first. Maybe go, and then wherever your crystals gives you information on what to do, then you follow the rules, or you follow the guidance of the crystal. You know, be careful of that. Also be careful of the entity, because all drugs lead to what? Addiction. Very important, addiction. So also be careful of addictions. That's right, be careful of any addictions. Make sure that whatever information you get and you start studying this stuff, do not learn how not to become addicted to it. This is essentially where I'm getting at. Don't become addicted to one particular entity's information over the other. Some people say, Rob Hotep's a Bible nut, because somebody was saying that in one of the notes. He reads too much of the Bible. That's what's wrong with you. You know, the Bible done drove you crazy. You don't look crazy. That's what's wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm out here making. I'm out here surviving. What's wrong with you? You are a slave. I'm making it on my own freely, without the, you know, backing. I'm not saying I don't have. I mean, thanks to the people that helped me. I really want to thank you guys, because, you know, people really care about my situation. I mean, I've been through a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I'm still alive though, making it off the occult. Whereas you, yourself, you're a fucking slave. So at the end of the day, you're working for somebody else. You're a domesticated human being, like a domesticated dog. I'm like the dog that's out there killing this wild on its own. You know, I'm a beast. That's why they're scared of me. I'm like on the beast mode. Like they used to call Aleister Crowley the beast. You know, I'm on beast mode. I'm out here making it on my own or whatever, and got to figure out ways to make it or whatever on my own, like the wild animal or the wild dog or whatever. And you out here on the other hand, like a domesticated dog, and they feeding you, they buying you food and all of this type of stuff or whatever, and you say, ain't nobody buying me before I go out here and work for my money every day. No, but still you're a domesticated animal, because you got to go to work or whatever at the end of the day. And when you go to work, you already know how much money you going to get paid. You already know you going to eat. See, even you may say, well, a homeless person is a domesticated animal because they feed a homeless person. It's not the same. Because a homeless person doesn't know guarantee tomorrow that the homeless person, ain't no guarantee that tomorrow the homeless person going to be alive. They got to sleep outside. They don't got walls protecting them, and somebody can come and stick them with a needle while they sleep somewhere or some shit. Somebody can come rob their ass while they sleep. So it takes survival skills to be homeless. I've learned how to do all kind of different astral travels from sleeping in the wilderness and in nature. So I done slept out in nature with beasts and animals. So before you go judging me, can you do some of the stuff that I did, and that I do still, even to this day? And I'm moving higher into these initiations or whatever, but at the end of the day, back to my point, you have to make sure that you don't become addicted, beloved. This information can become very addictive, to a point where the entity starts to tell you to do things, and you get attached to the entity to where you got to always go back to this entity, because it may have told you to do something one time and it worked for you. You're like, damn, it worked and I got all this money. Then you may go back to the same entity or the same ancestor even, or whatever. I don't know how you guys are working with your systems. Like, I mean, I'm just throwing information out here, but I don't know how it works when you guys channel and get information or get aha moments to do things. But you may go back to that same daemon. Like these MCs, they know what I'm talking about. They go into their Rain Man mode or whatever. They may go to the same daemon to get bars and information. Then they may go back to the same daemon at a different time. You may say, damn, Ram Hotel working with demons. So much to explain. But anyway, I know I'm jumping around here. But you may go back to this daemon at a different time, and it doesn't give you as clear information, or it may not work for you. You may say, oh, it lied to me. It got me in trouble. See, now it's this demon slaughter. It's this entity. See, I should have never listened to these different metaphysicians out there, Phil Valentine, these different people, and Bobby Hemmett and them, and Rob Hotep Ill, all of them, because they done got me in trouble. And I just should have stayed dealing with Jesus. I should have stayed praying to Jesus or whatever, and the case may be. And it's like, you just got to know that you got to always check the spirit and use your own intellectual knowledge to know as to what this entity is telling you. Is it telling you to do something that may not work at this time? Like how? Because you got to remember, these are not physical beings, so they're not aware of the laws that we are aware of here in this reality. They don't worship Anu or the Most High or God, which you consider God. They're past that. They are God, some of them. The gods worship. You know what? You want to know who the gods worship? They worship a being by the name of El Kalum, of which you cannot understand. I'll just translate his name for you. His name means the all. So they worship the all. So they're understanding the universal law on a higher level. They know that we are all interconnected by a multiplicity of beings, like it talked about in the Metu Neter. We are all interconnected by a multiplicity of beings, and they understand this whole unit as a whole as being the all, and they're able to move through units of people. So they may have told you to do something or whatever to you, so you could work a ritual for the all at that particular time. You may go back to this entity. It may give you bad information because it's not, it's not moved on. It's on something else, and there is no good and bad. Maybe whatever it's telling you wasn't time for that anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down. I just want to kind of throw that out there. Be aware of who you are channeling. Be wise. Be vigilant. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you in peace. And don't worry about what these haters are saying. Namaste.